My name is Jasmine Cole. I had just returned from a 4-day work trip when I found my mother and sister treating my condo as if it belonged to them. The moment I stepped into the hallway, I knew something was wrong. My spare key wasn't in its usual hiding spot. Shoes I didn't recognize were scattered across the entryway. A designer purse, one I'd never owned, sat on the kitchen island. And my favorite silk robe, neatly folded in my top drawer, now hung over a chair, lipstick on the collar. Amber, my sister, sauntered out of my bedroom like she was on vacation. My mother followed, a wine glass in hand. "She needs space," Mom said casually. "You know, to get over the divorce. It's been hard for her." Amber didn't even glance up. She took another sip and added, "Your bed's amazing, by the way." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I wheeled my suitcase to the guest room, the only one untouched, and said calmly, "Of course, let's all get comfortable." But that night, I opened my laptop, and by morning, they would be reminded exactly whose name was on the deed. By sunrise, I had changed the Wi-Fi password, reprogrammed the smart lock, and called my lawyer. My condo was fully mine, paid in full. No lease, no guest agreement, nothing they could twist into a legal claim. They had expected me to fold, but I hadn't spent 10 years building my life to become someone's emotional doormat. Mom was the first to notice. "Why isn't my phone working?" she asked, waving it as if I were her personal IT department. "New password," I replied, sipping my coffee. "Didn't think you'd need it long term." Amber emerged in my bathrobe, scrolling through her phone. "I'm meeting Kyle later. Don't touch my laundry." I almost laughed. I called a locksmith to schedule a visit for next week when I knew they'd both be out. Meanwhile, I watched. Not a word about when they planned to leave. Not even a thank you. My food, my wine, my candles, they treated everything as if it were theirs. But I had time. I had patience. And more importantly, I had a plan. They thought my silence meant passivity, but I was quiet because I was 10 moves ahead. That evening, I returned from work to find my living room transformed. Amber had rearranged the furniture, my favorite throw blanket draped over her legs. My expensive, carefully rationed candles were lit and half-burned. Mom was on the phone in the kitchen, loudly explaining how she and Amber were staying at Jasmine's place for a bit, as if I were a footnote in my own home. I didn't speak. I took photos, time-stamped evidence of my belongings being used without consent, of their unauthorized occupation. Then I checked the bank alerts I'd set up. Amber had ordered takeout on my linked grocery account. Perfect. I logged into the HOA portal and quietly filed a report. Unauthorized occupants, disruptive use of amenities, misuse of utilities. It wouldn't evict them immediately, but it would start the clock. That night, Amber invited friends over. Laughter, music, wine spilling onto the hardwood floors. I had refinished myself. She didn't know I had installed a motion camera by the door the week before. At 1:23 a.m., I backed up the footage. This wasn't pettiness, it was proof. Soon, it would be more than personal. It would be legal. By the end of the week, the building manager called. "Hey, Jasmine, got a noise complaint. They said your unit had a party on Tuesday." Was that allowed? I closed my eyes. That was the night Amber had brought over 4 friends, turning my living room into a karaoke bar, while I sat quietly in the guest room, headphones on, pretending it wasn't happening. "No, that wasn't allowed," I said calmly. "I'll handle it." That afternoon, I printed the HOA guidelines, highlighted every violated clause, and left it on the kitchen counter. Amber tossed it in the trash. Mom didn't even flinch. They thought I was bluffing, until I filed a 30-day notice to vacate with the HOA. Legally, it started the process. I had proof they were unauthorized. I had video. I had neighbors ready to testify. Then I did something else. I called a stager. If they were going to live in my condo like it was theirs, fine. I would sell it from under them. Amber laughed when she overheard, but Mom's face shifted for a moment. She remembered whose name was on every paper, and for the first time, she looked nervous. By the time the stager arrived, I had cleared every drawer they hadn't touched. Amber was still in bed when I brought the first potential buyer through. Mom looked confused. "Who are these people?" she asked. "Just a few buyers," I said with a smile. Amber burst out laughing from the hallway. "You're not selling. Be serious." But I was. That week, I pulled comps, met with a realtor, and booked professional photos. Amber and Mom grew tense. The longer they stayed, the firmer my boundaries became. I labeled the fridge shelves, took back my keys, and set a deadline on the whiteboard: move out by March 1st. No discussion. At first, they ignored it. Then they started asking questions. "Where are we supposed to go?" Mom whispered one night while I folded laundry. "That's not my problem," I replied without looking up. Amber finally snapped when she found a lock on my bedroom door, pounding her fists like a teenager. "You're being cruel." "No," I said through the door. "I'm being done." The next morning, my agent called. 2 offers. Suddenly, Mom packed quietly and nervously. Amber just stared, finally realizing I wasn't bluffing. I scheduled the final walkthrough on a Sunday morning. By then, I had boxed my essentials, forwarded my mail, and secured a small, bright rental across town, all mine. I never planned to sell the condo, but letting them live inside something I built wasn't living. It was decay. When the buyers arrived, Amber lingered in the kitchen, hair undone, coffee in hand, as if she owned the sunrise. She didn't speak. Neither did I. The realtor gave the tour. Spacious layout, newly refinished floors, lots of natural light. Mom stood by the window, arms folded, eyes glossy. "This isn't how family treats each other," she whispered. I turned slowly. "No. This is how a daughter is treated when she's seen as backup housing. I'm done being the backup." She didn't argue. She just looked tired. 3 days later, when the deal closed, I gave them written notice: 48 hours to vacate. Security was on standby per HOA policy. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't say another word. I had already said everything by choosing to reclaim my condo, and myself. They left the day before the locks were changed. Amber slammed drawers, stuffed clothes into trash bags, stormed in and out like a victim. No tears, no apology, just quiet rage, entirely powerless. Mom lingered. She sat on the edge of the now empty couch, staring at the wall. "I stood in the doorway waiting," she said. "We really messed this up." I said nothing. "You're cold now," she added. I exhaled. "No. I'm clear." She flinched like I'd struck her. I didn't care. That clarity had cost peace, space, money, time, but it bought me something better: freedom. When they were gone, I walked through the condo one last time. Empty walls. Echoes. My space again, if only for a few hours more. I left a note on the kitchen island for the new owners: "May this home never be filled with entitlement, only gratitude." Then I locked the door. No backward glance. No sentiment. Just forward steps. Some people don't leave until you remove the floor beneath them. I had learned to do it gracefully. It's been 4 weeks since I handed over the keys. The condo is gone. The chapter is closed. But what stayed is silence, a different kind. Not the suffocating hush of walking on eggshells, but the peaceful quiet of living without intruders. My thoughts. My boundaries. Amber posted something cryptic online last week, a photo of an empty wine glass with the caption, "Some people forget where they come from." I didn't respond. Let her rewrite the story. That's not my job anymore. Mom texted once, "Hope you're well." That was it. I didn't write back. I've learned that distance isn't just physical. It's emotional, spiritual, survival. I don't miss the drama, manipulation, or guilt disguised as concern. I miss the idea of family, but the real thing? I never had it. Now, in a new apartment smelling of fresh paint and lavender, I light my own candles, wear my own robe, and sleep through the night. They tried to live in my home like it was theirs. Now I live in peace like I earned it. No screams. No scenes. Just silence and freedom.